Friends, good evening. Thank you for joining today's session. We are presenting this series on self-transformation. What are these sessions about? They are all about transforming our bodies, our minds, and our souls. They are about increasing wellness naturally, making small but sustainable changes to our lifestyle, treating the root cause of all diseases through lifestyle changes rather than treating diseases with medication one by one as they come. Peace, happiness, and longevity may be one of the side effects of these lifestyle changes. Each of these sessions will cover the following. There will be a health and a well-being tip. We will cover scientific benefits of meditation. There will be a 10-minute meditation session with calming music, followed by a wisdom sharing session. This will be followed by a Q&A and experience sharing session. We will also be inviting special guests to our sessions who will speak about their experiences of meditation and lifestyle changes. We will now start today's session with Vijay presenting on vegetable oil kills. Over to Vijay.
Good evening, everybody. Namaste. Just 1 second, please. Good evening again. For last 2 weeks, we have seen about the detrimental effects of vegetable oil. We shall continue today. This is our disclaimer. Last week, we have seen that from dump yard to dinner table, the curious case of the journey of vegetable oil. In 1860, it was garbage. In 1870, it was fertilizer. In 1880, it was cattle feed. And since 1890, it is on our dinner table, the vegetable oil. We have also seen last week that how it was made before and how it is being made today. As you can see, before, oil cakes were for animals, and since 1890, they come onto our dinner plate. On average, 7 liters of oil per person per year, that equals to 19 grams per day. That means there are 12 ears of corn. we are eating if we have 19 grams per day. If you are having grapeseed oil, then that would be 1 kilo of grapes. This is for every day. And these 19 grams are being consumed by every single human being on average per day. If it's rice bran oil, then there are 12 cups of rice for 19 grams per day oil. And for sunflower oil, that would be 820 sunflower seeds. If we put this into perspective, this is Walker's cheese and onion crisp, 25 grams of pack. And you can see there is 7.4 gram of fat or oil in 25 gram pack of Walker's crisp. What does it mean? 7 is equal to 4.67 years of corn, or about 389 grams of grapes, 1 kilo of rice, or 319 seeds of sunflower, just in 25 gram crisp pack. There are two types of fat. One is saturated and one is unsaturated. Unsaturated fat has two subtypes, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Mono means one, poly is more than one. Now this is the chemical structure of saturated fat. You can see that all the carbon atoms here in the middle all contain single bonded carbon to carbon bonds, CC bonds it is called. And carbon atoms are fully bonded with two hydrogens up and down, two hydrogens. No possibility of any more hydrogen atoms being bonded with carbon. Each carbon atom is bonded with two other carbon and two hydrogen atoms in the chain. These are very stable molecules and very hard for them to get emulsified. This is the molecule of saturated fat. Now the monounsaturated fat. You can see in here, there is one gap. Monounsaturated fat has a single bonded carbon chain. What does it mean? This leaves room for future reactions of the chain where it can get bonded with hydrogen atoms. Here is a gap there. And it gets emulsified with very relative ease. This is monounsaturated fat. The third one is polyunsaturated fat. Poly means more than one. That fat has a double or triple or more bonded carbon chain. This leaves room for future reactions of the chain where it can get bonded with hydrogen atoms in here. You can see here. And it gets emulsified very easily. So this is the difference. More bonds, more breakage. Saturated fat has no bond. Mono has one, poly has more than one. Polyunsaturated fats have several fatty acids. Omega-3 and omega-6 are polyunsaturated fatty acids. Both are essential for our body and the brain. The human body produces all fatty acids it needs except for two, linoleic and omega-6 and alpha-linolenic, omega-3. We get them both from plants. Now, vegetable oils extracted from seeds have linoleic acid, that is polyunsaturated acid. The problem is not with seeds, it's the oil that is extracted from seeds. It's the polyunsaturated molecule of linoleic acid. And linoleic acid is very vulnerable to oxidation. Now we will see how it occurs. That would be a bit scientific, but still we can understand that. We have seen before that there are so many, more than one gaps in polyunsaturated fatty acids molecule. So what happens in here? A hydrogen atom near the double bond is easily stolen by the hydroxyl radical. This is the hydroxyl radical. It steals this atom, hydrogen atom, which has an unpaired electron, forming a lipid radical and water. So this hydroxyl radical, or a free radical, steals hydrogen from here and makes the another radical, which is called lipid radical plus water. And then in step 2, that lipid radical encounters oxygen and it forms a lipid peroxyl radical. And in step 3, again, it goes back to the lipid peroxyl radical is then free to react with another intact polyunsaturated fatty acid molecule and forming another lipid radical. And that's how this whole chain reaction starts from lipid radical onwards to lipid peroxide onwards. And then again, it goes back to lipid radical. And so the chain reaction occurs. And this is what happens. This is a normal cell. This is the damaged cell by free radicals. And this is the end of the cell death. Why this linoleic acid from the plants, extracted from the plants, is detrimental to our health? You can see fat type saturated, coconut oil, butter fat, and lard. This is the milligram per 100 gram. Safflower oil, 74,000 mg per 100 gram. Sunflower oil, 60,000. Soybean, 53,000. Corn oil, 50,000. Cottonseed, 47,000. Coconut oil, 1,400. Butter fat, 2,300. People used to eat lard or butter fat or ghee in India, in South India, coconut oil especially. But because of the oil extracted from plants, from seeds, what happened since last couple of centuries? Optimal dietary ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 was 1:1. Now it is 1:20, 20 times more. People with different health conditions need higher omega-3 to omega-6 in different proportion. Because of vegetable oils, the level of omega-6 and hence linoleic acid in our body has increased by up to 20 times. We only need 1 to 1, but now it's 1 to 20. So what are the consequences? There is a bee, honeybee, Apis mellifera. It's a very interesting social insect. And what happens? 1/3 of our global food supply is pollinated by bees. Most of the bees are sterile female workers. Very few male bees, the drones, and their sole job is to mate. The queen lives for years, and the drones and the female and other sterile female workers lives for a few weeks. The virgin queen leaves the hive she is born into and mates with several male bees. And then she starts laying eggs. In summer, up to 2,000 eggs per day. Now, when the queen lays the eggs, they are all from the same mother herself, but different fathers, different drones. In a way, they are all genetically same. But few of them will become queens who will be twice, who will actually start a new hive. Whereas the rest will be done to hard labor. For these honeybees, the DNA script has not been altered. All larvae should either result into workers or should have the luxury of queen's lifestyle. How these identical bees have different destiny? The outcome depends entirely how the larvae are being fed. The early days feeding determines their life journey. The dice of destiny is rolled after the 3rd day of their birth. Until the 3rd day, all larvae are fed the royal jelly, a secretion from the head glands of specialized worker bees known as nurse bees. And royal jelly has 12.5 protein along with many other nutrients. The nurse bees stop feeding this royal jelly to most of the larvae and only feed to very few selected larvae. And others are fed pollen and nectar. And this triggers, after the 3rd day, a cascade of molecular events that separate the future queen bees from worker bees. And this is the result. First is worker bee, second is drone, the male bee, and third is the queen. It is not just size, but lifespan. For worker bees, 15 to 38 days, for drone, 32 days, and for the queen, up to 1 to 8 years, depending on their subtypes. And development time, for worker bees, 21 days, drone, 24 days, and for the queen, just 16 days. So what happens there? Even though their DNA is same, why some larvae becomes worker bees or some become drone and some become queen? The long-living queens have very low level of polyunsaturation in their membrane lipids, that is in the fat in their cell membrane. And thus a low peroxidation index, which is oxidation throughout their life. Now, when the nurse bee decide to feed pollen and nectar to most of the larvae, somehow they remove a chemical called phenolic from the royal jelly. When they feed the queen, this chemical has been removed. And when they feed the worker bees, they are being fed with pollen and nectar without removing this phenolic chemical. And because of that, some larvae become queen and some become worker bees. Their diet delivers their destiny. Larvae of workers and newly emerged workers have a membrane fatty acid composition similar to that of the queens. After the first week of life in the hive, the peroxidative index of membrane fats is substantially increased due to an elevated content of polyunsaturates due to the consumption of pollen by workers during the first week. Pollen has high content of polyunsaturates. Queens are never allowed to consume pollen throughout their life. Nurse bees do not feed their queens pollen and nectar which has polyunsaturated fats. And because of that, one larva is the queen and the other remains a sterile worker bee. Even nurse bees know what not to feed. And this was the main reason why the vegetable oil is very detrimental to our health, because of the polyunsaturated fats. The ratio should be 1:1. Instead, it has gone to 1:20. And this is the main reason of so many diseases in our body. Next week, we will see the last part of this series. Thank you. Now, over to Dinesh.
Today, we are going to look at scientific explanation of meditation. In today's session, we will look at meditation increases melatonin for good quality sleep. So first of all, let's break our current breathing pattern. When we break our current breathing pattern, those spined 175 neurons in the prebot C in our brainstem inform our brain's control center that something has changed. So our brain becomes alert to the new situation. This breaks the flow and we are ready either to react or to respond to the new situation. To now, because we are going to meditate, to break the breathing pattern, please take a few deep breaths slowly and exhale very slowly. Melatonin is a sleep hormone. It is produced in the pineal gland in your brain. Its levels start rising when it is dark. It tells your body it is time to go to sleep. It reduces the level of the hormone dopamine that helps you stay awake. It binds to the receptors in the brain to help reduce nerve activity. It helps regulate your body temperature and your blood pressure and the levels of some hormones. Now let us look at the factors which affect melatonin levels. Age affects the melatonin level, caffeine use affects melatonin level, bright lights will affect melatonin level. Our body size, if someone is obese, they will end up having less melatonin. Tobacco use and medications, all these things affect the melatonin levels. Now let's look at the 4 stages of sleep. The first stage is the lightest sleep, where the heartbeat and breathing slows. The slow rolling eye movement takes place, and sudden jerks or muscle spasms will take place. Stage 2 is light sleep, where slow eye movements will stop, heartbeat will actually slow down even further, and the body temperature begins to drop. The third stage is the deepest sleep. This is when brain waves slow down even more, tissues repair and regrow, heartbeat and breathing is at its lowest. The fourth stage is the rapid eye movement or REM, deep sleep. The heart rate and blood pressure increases, dreams and memories form, and eye movements speed up. Stage 3 is very important. It is also known as slow wave sleep stage. So, what is the effect of meditation on sleep? Meditators spend more time in sleep stage 3, which is very important. Aging reduces the activity of stage 3 resonating mechanism. Meditation prevents the age-associated changing in the SWS generating mechanism. Older meditators retain the sleep pattern of younger non-meditating controls. So how does this happen? Meditation increases melatonin concentration by slowing its hepatic metabolism or augmenting the synthesis in the pineal gland. So what is meditation? Meditation is focusing on a singular point. This promotes quality sleep. Meditation means to be in the present, in the here and now, focusing on a singular point. We'll just go over what we have seen in the last 6 sessions on what meditation does. Meditation promotes quality sleep. It creates alternative circulation pathways and new blood vessels. It achieves the 4-step breathing to live longer and healthier. It trains the 175 neurons in pre-board C mechanism to adopt the watch and wait policy, which results in us responding and not reacting. It controls the release of hormones. So, meditation is not a religious practice. It is all about seizing the moment. It is all about you. It is all about you to be in the here and now. No past impressions, no future anxieties, just the present, because you only live in the present. The past has gone, the future only arrives as the present. All of us have 1,440 minutes in a day. Spare only 10 minutes a day to tune with yourself, anywhere, anytime. So let us begin the meditation practice. Please sit in a comfortable position. Close your eyes. Interlock your fingers. You can focus on any singular point. Focusing on your breath is easier to start with. Keep focusing on your breath going in and coming out at the nostrils. If your mind wanders somewhere, bring it back to your nostrils to observe your breath. Do not try to breathe deeply, just breathe naturally. Your breathing will automatically slow down. Keep observing your breath. I will now start the music and let us meditate for 10 minutes. Friend, friends, you may bring your awareness back to your bodies. Place your fingers on your eyes for a few seconds. Then you may open your eyes. Vijay, we've got a couple of questions on vegetable oils. If you could answer. The first one is from what you say, ghee or butter is actually good or better than oils. But what about the cholesterol in butter? Is that not bad for health?
We will deal with this question next week, but since you've asked, uh, cholesterol is not bad for health. We need cholesterol. And our body actually produces 80% of our need. And the rest of the 20% comes from our diet. Now, without cholesterol, we will not be able to even survive. Because what it does, it balances the amount of omega-3 and omega-6 in our cells. And omega-6 makes our cell membrane very fluid, soft, and omega-3 makes the cell membrane a bit rigid. If we have excess omega-3 or omega-6, cholesterol balances both the levels and it keeps our cells functioning. That's the first thing. And the second thing, everything excessive is damaging our health. So if you eat ghee, ghee has cholesterol. Ghee is saturated fat. But that saturated fat does not have any loose bonds. Even though omega-6 or other vegetable oil, the polyunsaturated molecule has loose bonds, but if we eat them properly, 1-to-1 ratio, then everything will be balanced. But when we have, say, 1 teaspoon of vegetable oil, we are having too much omega-6. And that is actually creating a bad effect on our health. We shall discuss this thing in next week's session.
There was another question, which oil is good for omega-3?
Again, we will see this next week because we are not repeating everything this week. Yeah.
Okay. So there are two questions on meditation. The first question is, can meditation reduce the need for sleep? Meaning, can I sleep 1 hour less if I meditate for 1 hour? Uh, Experienced meditators all say that their requirement of sleep has reduced drastically. So after a little while, your need for, if you meditate regularly, then your need for sleep will actually become less, because we are spending much more time in the stage 3 deep sleep, and that is very sort of effective. So meditation don't reduce your sleep automatically just by saying that I'm meditating for 1 hour, so I should sleep 1 hour less. It will happen automatically. You will actually require less sleep. The second question on meditation is, when I try to meditate, sometimes I fall asleep. Any tips? Yes. So tips are, if we sit upright without taking sort of, if possible, rest, having a chair or something where we are resting our back, then and keeping our spine straight and our head straight, then the chances of falling asleep are much lessened. And at the same time, if we do a few breathing exercises before we start meditation, that will also help. Now we go over to the final final part of today's session, the spiritual wisdom sharing, and Vijay will now take over.
Since there was a question about sleeping less, in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is about the yogasanas or the yogic postures. It says that Shavasana, or the posture of dead body, posture of corpse, is the most difficult posture. If you want to sleep less, try to master Shavasana. And yogis, they say that if you master the Shavasana, 20 minutes of mastered Shavasana is equal to 6 hours of sleep. So if we try to master Shavasana, then automatically your sleep will reduce. And I'm saying this from my personal experience. When I was a monk, I only needed about 90 to 2 hours sleep in 24 hours. Because when I started doing the Shavasana, then sleep automatically would go down. But why the Shavasana is very difficult? Because in Shavasana, you don't need to do anything. Just lie flat like a dead body. And people do that. But they forget one thing. The dead body does not even think. So even we are doing Shavasana or we are meditating, what happens? We don't do anything, but we keep thinking. Because you always prefer to do things. If someone asks you to sit still for say 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, it is very difficult. Somebody can sit for 10, 20 minutes without moving, but they cannot stop thinking. Mind or thoughts give us the sense of existence. And no one wants to be nobody. We want to be somebody or something. We want to leave our legacy behind. And that is why what we do, we always follow the clutter. There are so many clutter. All clutter makes noises. There is social clutter. This is our status. If you have iPhone, then that is your status. If we have car or good mansions or money in banks, that is our status. Then there are manners. Fork should be on left side and knife should be on the right hand side. There are classes, noble classes, or the ordinary working person, or in India caste, Brahmin or Shudra or Kshatriya or warrior caste, or the business caste. All this social clutter you would like to cling upon. Then there are religious clutter. There was a guru who was, when he was delivering his courses, a cat would come and disturb the assembly. So the guru asked one of his pupils to actually tie that cat with one of the legs of bed nearby. The disciple got up and grabbed that cat and tied her. After some time, Guru passed away. But this was the daily routine. Cat would come and student will tie her up. So when Guru passed away, cat also died. And the new Guru came. And when he started doing the discourses, students remembered that we need to tie that cat. Where is the cat? But cat was dead. So they bought a new cat. And then they tied the cat with one of the legs of bed. And after a while, there were so many rituals. How to tie the collar of the cat, what type of knots should be there, which leg, for how long, what should be the color of the string or ropes. And then there were mantras. Before you tie the cat, you must recite these mantras. All religions have started like this, with tying a cat. This is religious clutter. Hell and heaven, gods and satans, good and evil, all the rituals, dogmas. But we forget something. If we just follow the dogmas, the principles, there is no end to it. Some people in some religions, they do not like to actually hurt a single insect. And they would sweep their path before walking upon. Why is that? Otherwise, some insects would die. But there are billions of bacteria in yogurt. In your intestine, there are 3 trillion microbiome for the bacteria. Every time you breathe in and breathe out, and without doing that, bacteria die and again you are born. Violence is always there. But then we stick to the outer practices. This is all religious clutter. If you go beyond that, then there would be spiritual clutter. People would say, I'm hearing some voices in my head, some angels, some messengers, some incarnations, some avatars, some gods, some goddesses. They are telling me something to do. I have vision. I have this guiding hand, guiding voice. There isn't anything like that. It's all created by our mind. But this is spiritual clutter. All this clutter make noises. But in spirituality, we have to become a silent witness. And that is why Shavasana is one of the most difficult, actually it is the most difficult asana or posture, where we do not even think. We just stay aware, do not move, and do not even think. And that is the key of becoming spiritually enlightened, the silence. When all the clutter stops, then we will realize what we are, who we are, and then we can understand about all this existence. And that is why silence is the sound of spirituality. In spirituality, everything has paradox. What is the journey of spirituality? To stand still. If we become empty, then we are full. If you do not attach yourself with just one thing or some things, then you will be attached with everything. If you know the one, if you be the one, then you become many, because all this is nothing but you. So silence is the key to realize ourselves. This was from Shakshi Gita. And as we know that we are just going beyond some time, but if somebody has any question or if they want to share their wisdom, please do unmute yourself and join in.
So just wanted to thank everyone Thank you very much for attending today's session. Next week's sessions, we will cover the following. Part 4 of Vegetable Oil Kills. Meditation reduces anxiety and negative effects of perinatal stress and mood during pregnancy. In the wisdom sharing session, we will continue with the powerful life lessons learned as a monk. Stop trying to become, just be. So thank you everyone, and hope you will join next week. If you find these sessions useful, feel free to send the invite to your friends and various groups that you may be part of. Thank you everyone.
You and namaste.